inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Here we are today, my family and I, about to return to Washington to meet a black woman of South Asian descent to be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States.
Avril Haines, Biden's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, says once in position, she will devote more resources to Chinese intelligence threat.
China is a challenge to our security, to our prosperity, to our values across a range of issues, and I do support an aggressive stance in the sense to deal with the challenge that we're facing.
President-elect Joe Biden tonight assumes the presidency of the United States of America. It's a country that is grieving the deaths of more than 400,000 Americans because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in recent years and in recent days, its ignominious fall as the so-called standard of democracy. What will be the first agenda of the Biden administration, and what could it mean for us Filipinos? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. And welcome to this midweek edition of The Chiefs. Of course, with us via Zoom are Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, who will be joining us in a few minutes, and Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. Hi, Bossing Lucy.
Hello,
good evening,
Ed.
and happy midweek.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, a lot of things happening in the next few hours.
I know.
We already saw Donald Trump, outgoing president, giving his farewell address and
Yes.
getting ready to fly off to, I understand, the sunny Florida.
Yes, and he has pardoned many of his friends facing prosecution right now, no? Chief of which is si Steve Bannon, yung
Steve Bannon,
kanyang
yes.
main campaigner, no? So, interesting yung mga nangyayari ngayon sa states, actually. Although interesting din dito sa atin, no? With the abrogation of that UP-DND deal, na
Yes.
hanggang ngayon ay mainit pa rin, no? At in fact, pinalawig nga to include PUP now, no? Susunod na raw ang PUP.
Yes, well, I suppose some viewers may be wondering, why are we discussing the inauguration of the U.S. president? But of course, you're looking at several million Filipinos who live in the United States. You have a substantial population who are of Filipino descent who are in the United States. And as well, whatever happens in the U.S., especially after what happened in the last few weeks, would have an indirect impact on us here in the Philippines. And for that, we join in our first guest for tonight. He is Ricky Rillera, the former president of the Filipino-American Press Club of New York. And also with us is Noelle Malvar-Morcos, senior researcher at the think tank More in Common. Good morning to you both there in the U.S. Yes, it is the morning in the U.S. right now. I think in the East Coast, you're at, what, 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Mm. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, Ricky. Hello,
Ricky.
Noelle.
Hello, Noelle. Yes. Thank you for joining us, and I hope it's not too early for you. But let me start off with this. Of course, we want to go into the economy, West Philippine Sea, and all these issues, like, for example, migration. But let me drill down to something that I suppose is of great interest to a lot of people. Have you identified kung sino si Walis Tambo guy? Yung sumugod dun sa Kapitolyo ng US na may dalang Walis Tambo.
Obsessed kami dyan eh.
Because the ambassador, the Philippine ambassador to the U.S., si Bib Romualdez, said that there were several Filipinos who joined that January 6 protest, and we'd like to know kung gano'n nga and kung meron nahuli.
Tungkol kay Walis Tambo, no, hindi malaman, hindi ma-identify kung sino siya, no. And there are some jokes going around sa social media, and they said that he must have been imported from mga
From Baguio.
manananggal.
Ano? Manananggal? Bakit manananggal? Kasi yung nakawalis.
Yeah, then secondly, wala pa namang na-identify na certain group, no, na mga Filipinos. But I think there are some who joined, but mga sympathizers lang siguro. Nasa labas sila. wala sa loob mismo.
Sa tingin niyo, wala pumasok sa loob? Because it is something that would happen in the Philippines, you know? I mean, Lucy would know this as well. It is something that would happen here in this country.
Yeah, but kasi ang mga instigators daw kasi panay mga mga militia groups, mga and I don't think any Filipino would be joining, But there's there was an article that I read, but it was Antifa, I think it was, I forgot the
Yes,
name.
yun ang sinasabi.
The so-called anti-fascists.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Oo. Yeah.
And of course, white supremacists. And I don't think Phil-Ams figure in those organizations.
No, I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but Ricky, I do remember in our conversation in November on Election Day in the U.S., we talked about around a third of Filipino Americans in a survey indicated that they would be voting for Donald Trump again. Is this an unusual percentage, or is this something that you would see across the board among immigrants in the U.S.?
Well, yes, especially among the second generation or first generation. Yes, that would be the traditional representation. But because of the so many things that happened during the term of President Trump, I don't think that they would expect that he would be holding yung traditional Republican values na dapat Kasi including sa Republican Party, I mean, they don't like what's going on right now. Except, of course, yung mga enablers niya sa Congress.
Yung hardliners.
And hardliners, right. Up to now, it's still like that,
But Ricky, can you give us a sense of how Republican Filipino Americans must feel right now with Trump, exiting ignominiously and in shame and utter defeat, and Congress now ruled by Democrats,
Yes.
both Senate and Congress.
Yes. Well, both houses actually,
Yes.
Okay, to start with, I think that there are still some Filipino Americans that really are hardcore Republicans and still believe that Trump won the election. And
That there was election fraud. Yes.
That there was election fraud.
Parang Pilipinas
but
lang.
I think, yeah, but
Parang
it's
Pilipinas,
not
walang
as much,
natalo. Lahat
Natatalo,
dinayo.
nadadaya lang.
Nadadaya, oo. Kanya, well, that's actually what's going on then sa mga ibang Filipinos dito. They think that, Trump really won by landslide, and they're still out in the open. I don't know to what extent yung inaano nila yung violence that happens sa Capitol,
Yes.
Yeah.
Kinokondemn. Yeah.
Kinokondemn.
Yeah, I suppose that shocked a lot of Americans. Let's also bring
yes.
in Noelle Malvar-Morcos, senior researcher at the think tank More in Common. Noelle, I think you're coming to us from New York. Am I right?
Yes.
But Ed, before sorry to
Yes, go
interrupt,
ahead.
but we have to introduce Ami Pamintuan.
Oh, Ami's here.
Who's now ready.
Yeah.
Yes, I think she's here now, no? Or, wala pa pala. Okay,
Wala pa,
sorry.
wala pa.
Yeah, go ahead, Noel. Sorry about that. That
Okay.
was wrong cue.
From the
Okay.
port area, we go to New York. Noelle,
Sorry,
Noelle,
sorry.
give us an idea what it's like now right there. What is the mood there of Americans? There were earlier reports of concerns of armed people, armed supporters of Trump, possibly causing some trouble. I haven't seen anything like that yet, but there were some reports of that possibility last week.
Yeah, and even until yesterday, pati yung mga National Guards na nasa DC, vinivet na nila. And I think they rooted out 12 the
Yes,
last time
a
I
dozen.
checked, na had plans or had ties to militant groups. Kaya yung mood, hindi siya yung normal celebratory inauguration. Kasi basically mukhang military fortress yung DC.
Yes,
Tapos,
you're looking at 25,000
National
National
Guard,
Guardsmen.
National Guard, baka para
No.
kaming nasa war zone. Tas, 400,000 dead. Tsaka, kalahati ng bansa hindi naniniwala na
Yeah.
presidente nila yung i-inaugurate. So ang
Yeah.
hirap. Actually, ang hirap
It's really a
mag-challenge.
polarized, yeah.
What does this
It's really a
mean?
polarized United States.
Well, let me ask the two of
Sabi
you.
nga namin, divided states.
Oo nga eh. What does that mean to Filipinos? Well, what does that mean? What would that mean to PhilAms there in the US and to Filipinos here?
To PhilAms here, depende sa political participation nila. So, feeling ko ang mga Filipino Americans, they are political, pero at the end of the day, naman, hindi naman common sa kanila yung nagwawatak-watak yung pamilya dahil sa politics. Dahil nandun pa rin yung family ties at malakas pa rin yun. Pero syempre, may tension din. Tsaka kung yung parents natin or ibang members of the family ay naniniwala na presidente talaga si Trump or nadaya talaga siya, edi parang iba na yung flavor ng relationship nyo.
Yes.
So, at the same time, di ba, ang daming Filipino nurses na affected ng COVID. So, parang nag-compound talaga yung, actually, yung
Yes.
problema.
As far as COVID is concerned, no, I understand that there's news coming out that the first move of Biden will be to impose nationwide mask wearing. No, so this is a 180-degree turn from Trump's, who's a non-believer of masks and protocols. No, how are Filipino Americans taking to this? Because I'm sure as far as protocols are concerned and views on how to address COVID, sobrang polarized din, di ba, ang Republicans and Democrats. I wonder how Filipino Americans are feeling about this, this new policy that Biden will be imposing. Any one of you can answer. Either one of you.
Sasabihin ko lang ay malaking chunk ng Filipino Americans ay nasa medical field. So sana naman first-hand experience nila na kailangan talaga mag-mask. I mean, 1 year later, after ma first diagnose yung virus, my gosh.
400,000, no?
Yeah.
Grabbing deaths. Yeah.
So, tsaka karamihan, mas malaking proportion ng Filipino nurses na namamatay or nang nagkakasakit. So, sana in that basic mandate, hindi naman polarized, pero titignan natin, syempre, kung mas malakas pa rin yung political views ng mga tao.
Ricky?
Yeah, I think ang nangyayari kasi ngayon, because there are a lot of the Filipino nurses working in hospitals ngayon, and they are, kasi, especially in LA, most of the hospitals in LA hindi na tumatanggap ng mga patients ngayon. Nakikita mo na lang na ang daming ambulances na nakabang sa sa hospital, yet hindi nila na ipapasok, no? And yung mga Filipino nurses na rin medyo hesitant na rin na pumasok and work for more than 8 hours because of what happened, I mean, mas madaming percentage of Filipino nurses ang namatay, kasi sa mga mainstream. And dito naman sa New York, ganun din. In fact, talagang overworked na sila, Now, with regard to the wearing of masks and face shields, I think most Filipinos understand that, and that's why they do it. Nowadays, maski nasa loob ng kotse, naka-mask na rin. Maski naglalakad, kanya they are aware of the consequences of not wearing that. Kaya yun. And the mandate ngayon, well, di pa lumalabas, but tonight maybe we'll know dahil it will be tonight that President Biden will be signing off a lot of EOs, and one of this nga is yung 100 days, kailangan kung ilang million ang dapat na
100 million.
100 million ang na-vaccinate in 100 days.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then, ang secondly is that which is welcomed by about 100,000 of the Filipinos na medyo TNT, yung immigration na meron ng pathway to citizenship,
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yes.
That's also a turnaround, no? From
Yes.
Trump's policy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then thirdly nga, part of that would be yung mga, siguro i-relax na yung H-1B visa.
Working visa.
Working
Visa yan, no? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kasi ang mga IT professionals and also medical, professionals were affected by that yung H-1B.
How so? How so?
Hininto ni Trump, no, as one of his policies until I think December, no, until the end of December last year, no. But
So no new hires, parang ganon.
No new hires, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Then
Yeah.
tinaasan pa nila yung fees, no, ng pag-hire ng H-1B workers, no. So ngayon, yung mga companies that are hiring them are reluctant now to
Yes.
get people from the Philippines, no, especially sa medical field and IT, because these are the two industries talaga na are supporting the U.S. economy, no, yung IT and the medical field. Right?
Sir,
So,
What about the DACA? You remember the DACA?
Yes.
Diba yung, what does it stand for again? I just remember the DACA, but it has to do with dependents, diba? Dependents who were born in the U.S. or brought to the U.S. when they were minors.
yes.
Tapos hanggang ngayon hindi kinikilala, diba? Na
It's
legal.
Deferred
At
Action
gusto pa
for
rin
Childhood
Trump.
Arrivals, or DACA.
Yan. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It allows some people with unlawful presence in the U.S. after being brought to the country as children to receive a renewable 2-year
Yun.
period of deferred action from deportation.
Well,
So do you expect that to also be reversed? Uh-huh.
yeah, well, actually, that's part of the immigration rollout ni Biden, yung mga DACA students, no? Kasi during the time of Trump, no, they were not accepting any more DACA applications, no. Tinigil niya 'yon, no, dahil meron kasing gap no, na tinap nila yung number of DACA applicants. So hininto ni Trump 'yon. So I don't know if yung mga hindi natanggap would still be allowed, because dun sa immigration reform na inaano ni Biden is that kasama na yon, there's a path to citizenship. In fact, I think narinig ko kahapon na yung mga na-process na lahat pwede nang bigyan ng green card kaagad.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sir, let me try to broaden the topic a bit. Let's talk about other things as well, China and the West Philippine Sea. Now, the Trump administration has consistently tried to paint Joe Biden as pro-China, and Trump himself as pro-US and anti-China. Where are we headed with the Biden administration as far as the West Philippine Sea is concerned? Is Joe Biden going to be as antagonistic against China as Trump was, or will there be more of a meeting of minds or a consensus building among all the other stakeholders? Noelle or Ricky?
Alam mo, in terms of foreign policy, ang approach naman ni Biden mas collaborative at hindi combative. At saka parang nare-recognize naman niya na US-China trade is so essential to both countries' economies na, I mean, hindi natin afford ang war for either side.
You might say it's a fact of life. I mean, even in the Philippines, it's a fact of life.
Yeah.
China products are here.
Yeah. So kung tied talaga yung economic fate natin sa isa't isa, parang wala masyadong sense mag-trade war. Although, yung European Union, nag-sign sila ng trade deal with China recently. But I think at the end of the day, the countries still look to the US to deal with China and to be influential in that region. And I think Biden can approach that challenge without starting a war. Na hindi naman niya ina-antagonize ang China, but instead, talagang trying to work with them.
Well, I
But
bring
what
that up.
about his stance? Sorry,
Sige,
go ahead. Ed.
Okay. Para just to follow that up, I bring that up kasi, for example, si Kurt Campbell, who was appointed by Biden as his Asia czar for the National Security Council, was the same guy who brokered the Scarborough deal in 2012, where in effect we lost Scarborough Shoal. Do you think this has any bearing on what's going to happen in the next few years? Does this have any implications on us? The fact that Kurt Campbell is the Asia czar.
Well, I don't think, kasi ang pinaprioritize naman ng US in terms of foreign policy is that ma-maintain muna yung relationships with other countries na sinira ni
Trump.
ni Trump. For instance, the European Union, that's one of them, and also just China. In fact, sa Iran, what I heard is that hinabla pa hinabla pa si President Trump ngayon, and may parting words pa yung Ayatollah nila ron about Trump. So yung Scarborough Shoal, I think they will not approach it as aggressively as
as Trump has.
did. Oo. I think kakaroon lang ng presence doon sa area, I think yung battleships and mga ibang military
Freedom of navigation sorties.
Yes,
That's what they call
yes.
it.
Oo. Yeah.
But what about but what about the mutual defense treaty? Is there a chance that that we can still haggle for better terms, at least moving forward, from the United States with Joe Biden there? Plus the fact that si President Duterte, as you know, moved to suspend to abrogate the visiting forces agreement, although he suspended the abrogation date. How do you think a Biden presidency will take to a Duterte policy on the West Philippine Sea? And in general, on the mutual defense treaty?
Ang sa akin, I think because the US always wants to maintain their interest in all of the regions. They want to maintain their supremacy, or leadership, I should say, leadership in the world, as protector of everything. So I think what they would do is that lang nila enforce nila yung assistance nila to troubled countries, and being Philippines one of them. Kanya nga, I think there's a need for the Philippine government to actually explore ways on how to really get into that mutual understanding na naman. Because there's a conflict between Philippine policy ngayon, and I could understand that dahil, for instance, si Duterte is what he wants is yung multi-assistance, so that's why he got in touch with China, with Russia, and not solely rely on the US.
Yes, right. Oo, kaya pinangangalandakan niya yung Sinovac vaccine and the Gamaleya, di ba? I mean, yan ang mga, kasi ayaw niyang mag-appear as being so dependent on US-made vaccines, So, yun na nga. So, ako, ang question ko nga dyan is, how do you think Biden and, his foreign affairs people will take to that? Are they going to, kowtow? Are they going to stand firm, or will they care? I think that's the question. Will they care? Really?
Collateral damage ba tayo?
Kaya nga
No, I think they will care.
Yeah, they will care.
They will care. Yeah, because it's in their interest. It's in the U.S. interest, really, to protect the Philippines. Because kung mawala ng Philippines doon, sino pa ang nila ron? Wala I mean, the Philippines already has all the structure, na military and lahat, and they know the Philippines well.
Yes.
So I don't think i-abandon nila tayo. Yeah, it's give and take.
Noelle.
I agree.
For example, what about the issue of human rights? Will it be a ticklish
Oh, yeah.
issue between the president, our president, and Joe Biden. Remember the last time a Democrat was in office, medyo maanghang yung palitan ng salita.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sa human rights, sa tingin ko, ang talagang umbrella goal ni Biden is iangat ulit yung standing ng US as the leader.
Correct.
And also the reputation na na-tarnish after 4 years of Trump. I think mas magiging vocal ang Democratic government under Biden against human rights violations to the extent na ipursue nila ang economic sanctions or actual military presence, hindi ko pa alam.
Okay, so we're going to see fireworks again. Is that what you see?
Sana hindi.
Mag-elections na rin dito, Ed, eh. So,
Isa't
baka
kalahating-
mag-wait
isa't
and
kalahating
see na
taon
rin
pa.
muna sila, di ba?
Sabagay, isang taon na lang.
Right.
Kaya, yeah, it's really interesting. Kami naman ay inabangan namin anong gagawin nila kay Trump ngayon, no? Actually, I
Yeah.
think to Filipinos, they're also watching to see how are they going to put Trump to justice? Kumbaga, kasi, I don't know, alam mo naman, ng mga Pilipinas, tinitingnan ko ano mga the moves ng Amerika, pag mga ganyan. Diba? Do you think they're going to run after him in the courts, ha? The Senate, for sure. But,
I think,
yeah.
actually, good question. Hindi ko alam kasi si Letitia James, which Attorney General ng New York, may kaso siya kay Trump yung taxes. Saka hinahabol talaga niya in the criminal court. Federal court, hindi ko alam ang chance na talagang mako-convict si Trump, makukulong. Pero feeling ko maraming nag-aabang. Kailangan lang niyang madali ng isang beses.
Okay. They want to see him behind bars, ha?
But let me frame it this way. Let me frame it this way. Do you think this is the end of Donald Trump in U.S. politics? Is he going to retire? Or is there something else up his sleeve? Ricky, sige. If you want to say something before you go into that, but I'd like to ask that question later.
Yeah, no, I think to your question, no, I think that's going to happen. I think what the Senate would do is to convict him so that he will not hold any public office anymore. And yesterday, there was hindi pa nagtre-trending eh. There was a plan that apparently Trump would be putting up a different political party.
Oh, his own party.
Yes.
Yeah, Patriots.
But if that happens, because he cannot hold, kung makonvict siya ng Senate, he cannot hold, hindi na siya makaka-hold ng public office, no? And sa tingin ko, Ross Perot tried that before.
Yes, we remember
Yes.
that.
Yes.
To put up his own political party, pero hindi nag-prosper, no? Kasi it's the base eh. Pero yun nga kiniklaim nila because despite the problems that we had in the last elections, 75 million pa rin ang bumoto kay...
Yes.
Oo eh. Oo. I mean, Ross Perot did not have the following of Trump.
that.
So,
Right.
ibang case yun eh.
And the intensity of the passion was different with Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yes,
Saka
absolutely.
may possibility na parang maging folklore, alam mo yung legend na si Trump, kahit hindi na siya yung leader ng movement. Yung idea at energy niya, nandun pa din.
Yes. Well, dalawa naman yun eh. It's either legend or caricature. Take your pick. But let me ask you this, kasi that's interesting kasi he was impeached the second time. But I don't know if it's ever been tried in the U.S. that can you try a president who is no longer in office in the Senate? I mean, has that ever been tried legally? Is there any precedent for this?
I don't think there's any precedent to that. Wala pa. Pero I believe na because nag-signal na yung majority Senate, the Senate ngayon, no, si McConnell, nag-signal na siya na baka pwedeng i-try siya. And some of the legal luminaries then, no, yes, he can be tried even after the kasi ang sabi nila, they cited the case but of course right now I cannot think of what that case was, no, na matatry siya, pero pwede siyang i-try na even with Trump out of the office na, no. Pwede siyang
para hindi na siya makatakbo.
Para hindi na siya makatakbo. Yeah. Yeah, yun ang ano nila.
Okay, well, I'm afraid we're out of time, pero we still have a special later. I think we're also tapping the two of you again for a special later on One News. So we hope to see you again later. Hopefully, things will be just as peaceful later as it is right now. Anyway, maraming salamat, Ricky Rillera and Noelle
Thank you,
Malvar-Morcos
Ricky. Thank you, Noelle.
from the US.
Salamat.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good night.
Sure, anytime. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
We will just go into break, so please stay with us.
Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana remains unfazed by the UP community's strong opposition against the agency's decision to cancel the UP-DND Accord.
We do not suppress legitimate dissent. Magpasimple kayo dyan. This morning when you woke up, nakakapag-tweet kayo, you can form a demonstration there. Nobody will touch you. Ang ayaw namin ay itong mga nagtatago dyan at nagre-recruit ng mga bata, binibigyan ng baril.
House lawmaker is calling for a probe into the one-sided termination of the UP-DND Accord.
Kung meron talagang dispute at naniniwala ang DND na wala nang batayan ang agreement na ito, then they have to submit to some form of mediation or arbitration under the administrative code. At ang merong papel dito sa usapin na ito ay ang Secretary of Justice.
Welcome back to the Chief Show on One News. We are now in the final stage of our conversation, and now joining us, medyo late na konti, nangalahati ng programa, Ami Pamintuan from the Philippine Star, the port end of the Philippine Star. Ami, welcome back. Yeah, welcome. Yes. And joining us tonight, our second guest is Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr., the spokesman of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. General Parlade, good evening, and again, always a pleasure to have you with us.
Good evening,
Good evening, General.
Sir, where are you? Are you in Lucena?
Yeah, I'm in my quarters, Lucena.
Oh. Okay, sir. Well, sir, of course, you do know what we are talking about, the decision of the Secretary of National Defense to abrogate the agreement between the DND and the University of the Philippines. The long and short of it is this: what is the objective of the military in abrogating this agreement at this particular time? Is there anything that has to do with the timing? What are we looking at?
First of all, it's not the military's decision. It's a policy decision.
Oh, the S&D.
It's a level Secretary Lorenzana. But yes, we expected this. In fact, we've been wanting to have this accord abrogated since, if I'm not mistaken, since 2018. But it's only now that we were able to really push for the abrogation of this accord.
Was there a catalyst in Secretary Lorenzana making this decision? Was there something that happened in particular that made him say, okay, we back away from this agreement?
I guess it has something to do with the revelations, the Senate inquiry on red tagging, where we were able to share a lot of information about students missing because of their involvement in the armed struggle. So, yeah, I guess it has something to do with that. Talaga namang napakadaming estudyante ngayon ang nare-recruit. And I guess it's also part of the NTF-ELCAC's effort to really curb recruitment. Kasi as far as the military is concerned, madali naming ma-address yung armed component eh. We just had our command conference and, in the conference, we found out that we were able to neutralize around 3,600 armed rebels. But then again, at the end of the day, parang kokonti lang yung nababas. So why is that? That's because of the continuous recruitment. And we see that, we've always believed that the center of gravity as far as recruitment of cadres, specifically for the New People's Army, is this University of the Philippines. So, of course, maybe there's something special with UP. It produces, the creme of the creme de la creme. They go to UP. But then, may problema tayo doon because of this accord. Hindi natin na-monitor yung mga activities ng mga organizations doon, especially those aligned with the Communist Party.
So, meaning, General, you are actually planning to monitor activities of students?
Yeah.
I asked this kasi kanina, meron kaming photos ngayon of soldiers entering the UP garden.
Yes, meron din kaming video. Yes.
So ano,
Yeah.
yun ang iniisip ngayon ng mga estudyante. Anong impact ng abrogation? How far can you go? How far can you enter? Papasok ba kayo sa classroom? Makikinig ba kayo? Anong parameters netong abrogation na to? Ng cancellation?
Yeah. Okay, I'll answer that to the best of my knowledge because I'm not really familiar with the specifics. Under discussion pa yan dun sa defense level. But I'll tell you right away, we don't intend to suppress, freedom of expression, the academic freedom, and then the presence of the soldiers. They've been there since, I don't know, maybe 3 years or 2 years ago pa. Nagkaroon lang ng COVID, kaya hindi sila...
Soldiers?
Yes, they are assisting.
Hindi, meron silang, alam ko meron silang detachment or post, no, yung police. But I didn't know na merong sundalo sa loob.
Soldiers are involved in a lot of things, including
plain clothes.
Food production.
Are they in plain clothes?
Sometimes in plain clothes, but as you can see from the video, we have nothing to hide. We go there, we visit the garden.
Yeah, but that one was in line with the terms of the agreement, no, na magpapaalam sa administration. So yun, sinabi naman nila na yes, may prior permission sila. Pero for you to say na may sundalo doon matagal na, wala pong, kung meron man, talagang yun, flagrant violation po yun ng agreement, no? So are you in effect saying na there's nothing new about the presence of military people there?
We were talking about the soldiers in military vehicle kanina na sinasabi niyo nasa video.
Yeah. Well, that's...
I'm referring to that. I'm referring to that. I'm not talking about... I'm not saying that...
You're not talking about a different operation altogether.
Okay, but going back to the question of AMI, no, what we want to know is when you say that you want to monitor, anong ibig sabihin ng monitor? I mean, kayo ba'y papasok sa mga hall, sa mga corridor na mga building doon? Are you going to freely look for whoever it is or whatever it is you're looking for? Ganun ba yun?
I don't know if I'll be allowed to tell you what we can do, but we can do a lot of things. We can enroll. In fact, we can
Yes,
enroll
sir.
our soldiers.
That's understood.
Be part of the pwedeng maging part ng faculty, pwedeng maging
Kung
estudyante.
papasa sila.
Of course.
Papasa sila.
Grabe, oh.
Ang dami, ang dami. I passed UP,
Yes, I
Yes, sir.
know. I'm
Yes, sir.
just kidding.
Yes, sir.
Dinalo ko yung kapatid ko. Sabi ko, first year ka pa lang dito. Ba't ganyan na yung itsura mo?
Hindi, pero sir, yes sir,
Yes,
pero
sir.
hindi. Iba naman kasi yung magtuturo sa magmo-monitor. Iba yun, sir eh. Nakakapraning yung monitoring. Diba?
Well,
So that's what we want to know. What kind of monitoring is needed in UP and what's the extent of that?
Monitoring, we go back to that inquiry. Well, Yeah, let's just stick to the monitoring. We've been doing monitoring functions. That's part of our mandate. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the job of your security sector to make sure that our communities are safe, the school grounds are safe. But siguro ang issue nyo rito is to monitor the illegal activities ng talagang magkakaproblema ka if you're doing something illegal already. Sabi nga ni Secretary Lorenzana, ang dami nang nangyayari diyan sa UP at wala kaming halos magawa kasi halos yung classroom na ginagamit nila for meetings, yung offices na ginagamit nila for meetings, for these terrorist acts or activities related to the Communist Party and to the armed rebellion, halos libre lang na avail dyan sa University of the Philippines. So what we're saying is we need to do something to make sure that these activities are put in check.
Yes, sir. Sir, well, to Luci's point, sir, it goes back to that question, kasi the stated objective in abrogating that agreement is because because UP is now the center of gravity, supposedly, of recruitment by the CPP and PA, and supposedly because it's a hotbed and safe haven of the enemies of the state. That's according to Secretary Lorenzana. With those statements in mind, going back to Luci's question, ano po ang balak ninyong gawin? With this abrogation, what do you intend to do in terms of operations or operating or presence in UP that is different from what has been happening in the last 3 decades? What changes now? Are you going to patrol in UP? Will there be? Sir, these are details that may get lost along the way. Are you going to have a presence there in UP? Will soldiers come in and out? Will there be soldiers in the halls? Things like these.
Yeah, I can only second guess, like I told you, this is still there's an ongoing discussion on this, but I can already say that we will not do patrolling inside the UP campus, UP compound. But all of this, whatever we decide to do in UP, that's definitely to make sure that we're able to perform our functions properly. And part of that definitely would include coordination with the authorities of UP. So wala namang problema doon, palagay ko, as long as wala naman tayong tinatago, wala naman tayong dapat alalahanin siguro. But we are also looking at the anti-terror law. It is important that the UP community understand that there's this law. No matter how many have filed their petition? 37 or 47?
30-something.
It doesn't matter. But what we're saying is, meron ng batas, and we have to be very careful kasi a lot of things are already illegal as far as this law is concerned. Ang daming specific provisions doon na talagang yung dating ginagawa ng mga estudyante ay hindi na ngayon po pwede. So that's part of the engagement that we want to have with the UP and possibly with the academe and the student organizations. So the bottom line there is to make sure that our students are safe. Kung gusto mo maging aktivista, fine. But kung gusto mong mang-recruit para maging terorista, may problema ka doon sa batas.
General, you're talking about engagement with UP, meaning you will still be coordinating with the UP administration. Kasi sabi ni Secretary Lorenzana, he's open to talking down with the UP officials as long as they can explain the recruitment na dinideny naman ng UP na hindi naman daw yung sponsored ng UP administration. Hindi naman daw siya organized recruitment. It's not supported. In fact, alam mo naman ng UP, lahat dyan nagre-recruit from left to right and lahat ng klaseng ideologies nagre-recruit dyan. So ang pinagtataka lang ngayon, and we've always believed na ang military naman has been undertaking intelligence operation type nationwide.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sa lahat ng mga schools, I'm sure. May mga active dyan. So what makes it different now na na-cancel yan? Ang iniisip ngayon, madadagdagan yung surveillance, madadagdagan yung military presence. Tama ba yun? Yun ang tinatanong lang ngayon. Ano yung maiiba with the abrogation of the deal?
If I'm not mistaken from what I read, one of the salient features of this accord is for the security sector to ask permission, to ask prior consent of the
Pero meron na yan ngayon, sir.
before before doing your search warrant, for instance, or implementing or serving a warrant of arrest. So palagay ko sa ngayon, with the abrogation of the UP Accord, palagay ko yung police kaya nang gawin yung dapat niyang gawin. Kesa naman hayaan pa natin na makatakas yung suspect because of this provision in the accord na kinakailangan mo magpaalam.
Well, sir, kung...
May exemption ng hot pursuit sa agreement, sir. Merong ganon. So, yung description ninyo ngayon, hindi yan naiiba sa terms ng agreement. So, ang gusto namin malaman, anong pagkakaiba? Ba't nyo pa inabrogate kung yan rin naman ang gagawin nyo? Hihingi kayo ng permiso or pag may hot pursuit, pwede naman kayong pumasok doon without asking for prior permission. Wala kami nakikitang diferensya. Ba't kailangan pa i-abrogate?
I'm not a lawyer, no? But I think when you say hot pursuit, a crime just happened and you are pursuing these criminals. Yeah, in the case of UP, a lot of things are happening there, like planning for a terrorist act or doing some preparations for a terrorist activity. Under surveillance yun. And that's not, I think that will not qualify as a hot pursuit. Yes, kasi initial stage pa lang sila eh.
So yun na nga, sir, yun ang gusto namin malaman. So paano nyo aalamin yun? Alam nyo, sangkatutak ng org sa UP. At kuminsan, lalo na yung mga freshman, sophomore, sumasama sila sa org nang hindi nga rin talaga fully knowledgeable of what the hidden agenda. Yes, I will grant that, but what's to assure them nga na hindi sila masasama sa pag-aaresto dahil lang sa nag-a-apply sila? Sir, ganun sa UP, no? That's a regular thing for UP students, applying to join orgs or whatever. But it's not, kasi yung statement nyo, sir, na kung wala ka namang ginagawang masama, ba't ka natatakot? But when you're joining an org, and if you say that this org is actually part of the CPP, NPA, but sir, paano nyo ma-distinguish yung inosente dun sa hindi, di ba?
Madali. First, before you get to that point where the students are already involved in these organizations, the abrogation of this accord would provide us the opportunity to, again, engage the studentry, the student councils, explain to them this is how the CPP works, this is how they recruit. So just be wary about these organizations. Madaming pwedeng gawin, if only to prevent this especially itong mga freshmen, wala itong kamuwang-muwang, yung mga galing ng probinsya. So doon pa lang, doon kasi nagsisimula yung problema eh. So I'm looking at the list of UP graduates and undergrads who were killed getting involved with the NPAs and getting killed. One or two of them were close to me. So sabi ko, hindi sana ito nangyari kung at least we were allowed to visit the schools and then conduct seminars or lectures or engage the students. Hindi na sana hantong doon sa punto na halos walang nagche-check dito sa mga organisasyon na ito na alam naman natin lahat na underground or are being operated by the party group of the Communist Party.
Well, sir, serving arrest warrants is one thing kasi that's issued naman by the court. In the end, I don't think anybody can really stop an arrest warrant being served if it's issued by a legitimate court. However, my question to you is this: is it possible for UP or any state university or any university for that matter to prevent military personnel from entering a campus, considering that a school still has its own rules and can still prevent people from coming in if by its understanding no law has been violated? So can you push that? How far can you push that? For example, if the UP administration says we are putting up our own rules, hindi pwedeng basta-basta pumasok ng walang paalam ang military unless it's serving a warrant of some sort by the PNP. How does that go? Can you follow that or will that be followed?
I'll give you an example. Sinabi na rin kanina ni Ma'am Lucy na we've been doing surveillance, monitoring inside the schools. Wala lang kaming magawa. So now, with the abrogation of this accord, probably we'll present our videos, ito na yan. Ito na yan, sir. Yung sabi nyo, walang nangyayari dyan, walang illegal na nangyayari dyan. Ito, what about this? So, will you now allow us to continue monitoring this group or these personalities?
Yes, sir.
Possibly.
Yes, sir. But
So,
it goes back to that. What if the school says no? What happens next?
Well,
Who has
there's a problem there.
who has the final
There's a
authority?
problem.
Who would have the final authority on making a decision on whether or not the military can go in? Sir, barring for example na arrest warrant, kasi iba yun korte yun
Yeah.
Barring an arrest warrant, can a school, whether it's UP, PUP or whatever,
UP is part of the executive branch. There's a higher body, there's a higher authority who can allow us to do our thing. So, respetuhan lang ito. And of course, as members of the, for instance, kung ikaw si Chancellor at kayo yung executive administrator ng school, alam niyo yung dapat na payagan niyo at alam niyo kung merong nangyayari na dapat ma-monitor ng security sector, for instance. So, kung ikaw ay magmamatigas, I really don't know paano mo justify yung pagmamatigas mo kung meron na tayo mga sinasabi nga na okay, in the past, ito yon, si ganito, dito yan na-recruit, si ganito ang nag-recruit niyan, itong faculty mo, yan yung mga requirement niya sa mga estudyante niya para maging radical, and then eventually, ito yung rini-require niya, doon kayo mag-OJT sa loob ng ganito, itong organization na ito, and then doon kayo, dapat ma-immerse kayo dito sa lugar na ito, and then this group will meet you there. So, we have all those information, but how can we proceed kung ganito katigas yung ang ating administration, for instance, ng UP. Of course, you cannot prevent the Defense Department and the security sector from not doing their job because you're bent on pursuing your academic or what do you call this, autonomy? I don't know.
Okay. Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr., spokesman ng NTF-ELCAC. Sir, maraming salamat for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we end, please watch One News's special coverage of Joe Biden's inauguration as the 46th President of the United States. Tune in tonight from 12 midnight to 2 a.m. right here on One News. And that will be all for this midweek edition of The Chiefs. We hope our discussion will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
And I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5, and we are One News.